Khuddaka Nikaya, the Minor Discourses, the Theragāthā, verses of the Arahant Bhikkhus, Dasakanipāta, Book of 10 Verses. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Theragāthā 10.1 to 10.7. Theragāthā 10.1. Kāḷudāyī Thera. The trees, blessed Lord, have all turned reddish-orange now. Having already shed their old leaves they once held so tightly onto. They all now eagerly wait for the coming of their new fruits, as their tiny flowers are jubilantly starting to blossom. It's quite beautiful, as everything is full of life everywhere one looks. O great vanquisher, the season now is indeed deliciously favorable for what is to come. With each tree delighting in a celebration of the blooming of its manifold flowers, permeating their fragrance everywhere and in all directions. They have all now come out of their slumber and are ready to bear fruit. O great vanquisher, now truly is the perfect time for us to head out and depart from here. Finally, O Lord, it's neither too cold nor too hot for the body to have to face any hardships outdoors. The weather is certainly lovely to go on wandering as we travel in stages. That way, blessed Lord, the Sakyans and Kāḷiyans could finally gain their opportunity to witness you in person, as both families witness the Tathagata himself crossing the Rohini River on your way westward, approaching their kingdoms. With much hope, the field has now been plowed and made ready. The seeds have been sown, with many lingering hopes too, not unlike merchants who go crossing turbulent seas in the promise of coming back, bringing with them many riches that were once only dreamed about. In a similar manner, O Lord, may my dream also come to pass, as I too witness my hopes becoming realized. Season after season, seeds are sown into furrows plowed. Year after year, the sky devas keep pouring down nourishing rain. Again and again, farmers go on tilling the land, and thus the grain keeps pouring into the kingdom in its constant flow. Season after season, those relying on the generosity of others go wandering for their daily alms. Year after year, those with kind hearts keep providing for the needy, supporting them with their requisites and their sustenance open-handedly. Again and again, such genuine, warm-hearted donors, having given generously and with the right intentions, find themselves taking their rightful rebirths into the heavenly realms repeatedly. For truly, indeed, into whichever family he may be reborn, that wise and pure-hearted hero, by his mere birth amongst them, brings blessings to his family and kin that last them up to 7 generations, back to back. Therefore, O Sakyan, you are to be, at the very least, the Deva of all Devas, for you are the one who fathered the greatest of sages indeed. Truly, Suddhodana is the name of the great seer's own father, whereas Maya was the name of the mother, who gave birth to the Buddha himself, having protected and carried the Bodhisattva in her womb for all those months, has been reborn into the happy and delightful states of Tusita once her physical form was no more. With the breakup of her body after her death as Queen Maya, on leaving this world behind, she now enjoys heavenly sensual pleasures, possessing the 5 chords of sensuality, fully supported and cared for by those happy devas surrounding her, delighting while giving her their full attention. Son of the Buddha, I am now called Angirasasa, who now lives unequaled to who and what I was. For I have indeed overcome and conquered that which was once impossible to overcome, unthinkable to conquer. And you, O Sakyan, you are truly my father's father. Gotama, my forefather in the incomparable Dhamma. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Kāḷudāyī. Theragāthā 10.2 Ekavihāriya Thera. When there's nobody to be found in front of you, and no one living or walking behind you, that itself is such a beautifully soothing experience to have, knowing that you're all alone, peacefully living all by yourself in the forest meadows. So there it is. I'm now headed off to the seclusion of the wilderness, to live alone, as praised by the Buddha himself, because there truly is nothing like to be dwelling alone for that bhikkhu whose resolute intent always leads him back to the practice. Thus, I walk myself back to my solitary forest, where one gets the opportunity to master himself fully and fast. No wonder, therefore, why dedicated sages throughout the ages find their hearts full of delight with spiritual joy every time they're back in the forest, the same place where wild rutting elephants come to roam. Here, surrounded by Sitavana forest's lovely meadows, enclosed with their colorful flowers, I'll continue sitting in the cool and shady grottos, where I bathe this body under the waterfalls that find their way pouring through the cracks. That's also where I'll be doing my walking meditation peacefully all by myself. Ah, when will that time come? That eagerly awaited moment, when dwelling as I am now in this forest that's so lovely, living companionless, secluded and alone, where finally I find myself living without any asavas left in me, and where I will witness my final task as fully complete. This is and has been my ultimate goal that's driving me, which I intend to fulfill sooner than later, for it most certainly will happen, thanks to my own efforts. Because it is for each person to attain that freedom for oneself. As such, no one other than me can possibly do it for me, for it's my own burden to carry, only my duty and responsibility to reach, therefore, and not a task for someone else to complete. Tightening up and wearing my battle armor ever so close to my skin, I'll march forth deep into the forest and never leave or come out of it. So that's where I'll be staying indefinitely. That is, so long as I have not attained the final and complete elimination of every contaminant still found in my heart. And while I sit there, all alone, at the top of the mountain, feeling the cool breeze caressing my face, there I shall split apart ignorance itself, as the fragrance of sweet-smelling wildflowers come to congratulate me and join in the celebration. Thus, it is in this delightful forest, sprinkled with its myriad blossoming flowers, where I'll be, sitting in one of its cool caverns, surrounded by cliffs, comforted by the ease that comes from attaining true freedom, as I take in the happiness of being released at last, out here in Giribajja. Behold, I have indeed done it. My heart's strongest and deepest longing is now truly fulfilled. Much like the full moon on the 15th day of the month. For now I've truly conquered by absolutely eliminating the asavas from the heart. And now there's no more future becomings left for me anywhere ever again. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Ekavihāriya. Theragāthā 10.3 Mahākappina Thera. If you're already skilled at clearly discerning from the outset, seeing the differences between that which is truly of benefit to you from that which is harmful, then whether it is friends or enemies who come to investigate you later on, none will be able to judge or point their finger at you or even call you out for being weak. He who has perfected himself through the practice of the in and out breathing, by cultivating and developing in his mindfulness, and thereby come to fulfillment as taught by the Buddha, is the one who truly illuminates this existence, radiating the light of wisdom like the moon, breaking through the thick, dark clouds. As such, I now stand as the living proof of this fact. So behold, the heart is finally bright and limitlessly free at last. It's through constant cultivation that it has now broken free, penetrating as it does, unhindered, seeing clearly through everything indeed, as it spreads its radiance in every direction. Life goes on undisturbed for the wise person, who, on losing his entire wealth and all that it provided for him, yet, however, he doesn't lose himself along with it, unlike the rich person, who, by lacking in wisdom, is not even alive for not having truly tasted life itself in the first place. It is through wisdom that one needs to discern what one studies or hears. It is wisdom, too, that helps one gain fame and a good reputation. So, when you keep close company with wisdom in your heart throughout all the many experiences in life, then you'll always have happiness to enjoy in your heart, no matter what kind of challenges that life throws along your way and their suffering you may come to face. Everyone who is born is bound to die. This is in the very nature of life itself. This is a fact, not just for today, but for all time and everywhere. So what is there to be shocked about? Where does the surprise part come in? Death is, after all, guaranteed for the person, simply because of the fact that he was born. So, from the moment he's born, whether here or there, death is already the inevitable reality for him, as the person keeps moving towards it, and most certainly reaches it sooner or later, unmistakably. This itself, therefore, is the very nature of all those who take birth. For whatever that is valued, held in such regard, or cherished by all those who are living, mean absolutely nothing for those who are dead. So, things like gaining wealth, fame, or becoming well known are things that essentially mean nothing. Nor are they praised by the wise recluses or Brahmins. For ultimately, once you're dead, there will be nothing left except those who cry and mourn. And besides, all that one's crying and weeping will end up doing is to impair and cause pain to one's eyes and body, affecting people's health, their appearance, and entire demeanor, to the point where not only their mood, but even their thinking will weaken and degenerate. In the meantime, your enemies rejoice and celebrate, while your loved ones become depressed by losing their happiness. For this reason, make sure that those who frequent your home and all those whom you consider as your family be those who possess genuine wisdom, embodying true understanding, which they then generously impart onto you by guiding, teaching, and inspiring you, so that you too can break free and dart yourself across the flood, just like a boat pushes itself stubbornly through and against the mighty currents of the river, and thus finally makes its way across to the farther shore. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Mahākappina. Theragāthā 10.4 Cūḻapanthaka Thera. I was hopelessly slow in my progress, struggling helplessly with the tedious pace of a snail, always looked down upon, mocked and despised, not only by all those who knew me, but also those who'd never even seen me, where even my own brother, my flesh and blood too, also shunned and tried getting rid of me, scolding and insisting upon me to leave, as he repeatedly commanded. Just get out already, and never come back here, ever again. Being pushed out like that, I stood there at the monastery's gate, left behind by my Sangha brothers. I found myself all alone, kicked out and abandoned, and in tears, with a heart that was now even more saddened and full of longing for the Dhamma. Then, out of nowhere, the Blessed One appeared, as the king of the Sangha approached with his soft and accepting smile, and ever so softly touched and caressed my head with sweet kind-heartedness. Then, taking me by the arm, he led me back into the courtyard of the monastery. Soon after, the great teacher, out of his limitless compassion, handed me a piece of clean cloth to be used for wiping the feet, as he instructed me. Just put all your attention on this. Resolutely focus it only upon this cloth. And as you rub it clean, continue striking away the dirt from it. Upon listening to my teacher's direct instruction given to me, I quickly and delightedly began applying the method, with such unprecedented determination, exactly as he advised. Soon after, I entered into deep samadhi, working my way through the path, taking me straight to the crown of all goals within the holy life. Suddenly, I clearly saw my previous births in all their details, along with the divine eye that arose in me, piercing through with its purity wherever I turned to look. I realized then and there how the three knowledges have been attained by me. Thus, completed was now the dispensation of my teacher, the Buddha. Having now fulfilled the task, I created 1,000 versions of Pantaka, all scattered around me, engaged in different activities around the monastery. Meanwhile, I sat there within the charming mango orchard, quietly waiting until the hour for the lunch offering would be announced. It was then that the messenger arrived, having been sent by the teacher himself. Later, when he finally approached, stating how the master had called for me, speedily I left, flying through the sky, and appeared among the gathering of bhikkhus. Having humbly worshipped and touched the teacher's feet with my head, I then sat down to one side, ready to accept the meal with the others. Knowing his bhikkhus were now all present, the Blessed One made sure I was seated alongside my fellow bhikkhus, and only then proceeded to receive the gift of dana that was offered to the Sangha. It was in this manner that the worthiest of all, the greatest among all recipients of truly worthy and heartfelt offerings, the unsurpassed field of merits everywhere accepted that day the gift of dana out of his limitless compassion for all in the entire existence. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Cūḷapanthaka. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Theragāthā 10.5 Kappa Thera. Full to the brim with all kinds of slime and dirty things, the incessant factory of excrement, producing an endless flow of vile, smelly things. This cesspit cannot hide its stench that's like a stagnant pool of filth that feels more like a perpetually bothersome, painful wound. An endlessly spewing boil with its overflowing pus and blood, oozing out ceaselessly all kinds of nasty liquids, much like a cracked sewage pipe with openings all over. This bag of festering muck called a body keeps on leaking from everywhere, with more than 60 tendons holding things in place, all precariously concealed under layers of muscles and flesh. This bag of rotting substances festering within it, which it carries, goes on parading itself, all bundled up in its thin, leathery cover called a skin, until it's time for it to be tossed out, when it finally reaches its expiration date. Meanwhile, sinews and ligaments keep the flimsy structure together. This skeleton of bones, neatly tucked beneath the surface, thanks to which this body is able to move about and engage in its many activities and postures, made possible only by the coordinated effort of countless little factors, where if even one were to go amiss in its conditioned function, everything comes falling apart. And in this way, one goes on roaming about, while being tagged with the mark of the certainty of death, never too far from the king of death himself and his watchful gaze. Thus, he keeps jumping from one body to another, having dropped this one here as he's pulled into yet another over there, yanked by the sharp hook of craving that's lodged deep in his heart. So you see, this body is completely smeared by ignorance, while being shackled by the fourfold knot, as it keeps sinking deep into the floodwaters, drowning inescapably as it does, being pulled down by the net that's made up by none other than his hidden tendencies, firmly tied down by the 5 hindrances, afflicted with the disease called incessant thinking, bound up and held captive by the root that's none other than craving. He remains perpetually blind, shrouded by the veil of his own willful ignoring. So that's how the body goes on existing, led by its blindness to impulsive triggers that inevitably turn into actions. Meanwhile, however, existence cannot go on forever, and soon reaches its end, even when life for such a fool seems like it goes on forever. In reality, though, this body will be left behind yet again, leaving him in utter disappointment as he gets severed from it. those dense and unwise common worldlings who keep thinking of this body as something substantial, calling it their possession, are the ones who keep adding to the endless swelling of horrors found in the cemeteries and their shocking charnel grounds, where their corpses are brought to be recycled, while they head out once more to further future births into some other realms. On the other hand, those who look upon this body with disgust as being no more than a venomous viper that's fully smeared and drenched in wet excrement, such beings are the ones indeed who've vomited out from within that poisonous root of re-becoming, and thus will soon be fully quenched and released from the asavas that contaminate the heart. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Kappa. Theragāthā Upasena Vangantāputta Thera. In order to dedicate himself to genuine and real practice, a bhikkhu must resort to lonely places where he could focus his energies properly in quiet seclusion, dwelling in places that are avoided by the public, living in places that are frequented by predatory animals and beasts of prey. The rubbish heaps have a lot to offer for the one with fewness of wishes, whereby he could pick up whatever he could find, and, with the discarded rough materials, he collects from charnel grounds robes or those he finds tossed onto the street, putting together a coarse patchwork robe for him to wear. With his gaze lowered and a humble heart, such a bhikkhu should then continue going on his alms round, walking from one house to another, while avoiding preferences on his way, as he keeps his senses in check, well guarded and fully restrained. Whether fine or coarse in the flavor of food, he remains contented with whatever it is that he obtains, without seeking more of this or that, or by longing for something other than what's given. After all, the one whose heart is always hungry for more tastes, how could he hope to ever be able to enter any jhana? Satisfied in the very little of which he partakes, this wise sage always chooses seclusion over seeking companionship. That is why he always finds comfort whenever he's alone, away from both householders and monastics alike. So, let such a wise person go on pretending to be dull-witted, or even be seen as being dumb or slow, for it's pointless, really, to go on speaking long or trying to explain yourself in front of the Sangha even, as you'll simply end up exhausting yourself in vain. Therefore, while living restrained by the monastic rules of the Patimokkha, let him avoid engaging in debates or try to insult another, let alone attempt to bring harm unto another. Instead, practicing and training himself in living the quiet life of a bhikkhu, such a wise person should watch what he eats, thus remaining moderate in everything. As such, he must be anchored upon his meditation object, carefully staying with its sign, fully alert even to the tiniest fluctuations of thought that arise in the mind. Thus, He should dedicate himself to diligent practice in developing his intuitive awareness by meditating on quiet serenity, while never missing an opportunity to penetrate by seeing through with insight. With persevering effort and relentless energy, devotedly applying himself in sharpening the mind, never avoiding the call to be practicing meditation. Such a wise one should never reduce his intensity, nor take a break from pursuing his main goal. That is, until he knows for certain that he has truly released himself from suffering. And if a bhikkhu lives and practices in this manner, with the unmistakable purity of intention in his heart, then he'll come to personally witness for himself the very destruction of all the asavas that contaminate the heart, as he then and there realizes the ultimate, by attaining the matchless peace that is none other than Nibbana itself. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Upasena Vangantāputta. Theragāthā 10.7 Apara Gotama Thera. You yourself must know full well the goal you must pursue, as you carefully consider the very nature of the greatest potential that's there for you, the one you want to accomplish in this very life. So, be resolute and fully engaged with its primary purpose. Now that you've chosen it for yourself, true to your original intention, go ahead and fittingly live the life of a recluse as taught by the great Master himself. To maintain a genuinely considerate and loving spiritual relationship with those around you, continuously practicing the training as you always work on tweaking and improving your character. Always be ready to take in the advice of those teachers who caringly guide you. True to your original intention, go ahead and fittingly live the life of a recluse as taught by the great Master himself. Always respecting while being full of appreciation towards the Buddha. Pay homage to the Dhamma with whatever that arises or comes to be, showing your heartfelt veneration for the Sangha. Go ahead and fittingly live the life of a recluse, as taught by the great Master himself. Living blamelessly, maintain a lifestyle that builds character. Thus, even while going on alms round, make sure your heart remains pure and stainless, no matter what you see, hear, or sense. And while you carefully keep the mind in check thus, go ahead and fittingly live the life of a recluse as taught by the great Master himself. Always eager to actively help out as you tend to things that require attention, while wisely avoiding all that seeks to steal you away from the real work that you must do. Stay committed to the higher mind, and just go ahead and fittingly live the life of a recluse as taught by the great Master himself. Choosing for yourself a home in the woods, a quiet place that's far away from the crowds and their noise, is indeed appropriate for the sages to resort to. Therefore, once you're there, go ahead and fittingly live the life of a recluse as taught by the great Master himself. Remain impeccably virtuous at heart, supported by profound learning, along with crystal clear discernment of phenomena undiluted just as they occur. And as you deeply penetrate and gain true understanding of the truths, go ahead and fittingly live the life of a recluse, as taught by the great Master himself. So, constantly go on looking at the way life keeps unfolding all around you, by cultivating a mind that always observes what's happening, clearly perceiving the ubiquitous presence of impermanence, and fully cognizant of the fact of non-substantiality in all things. Keep witnessing the ugly and repulsive reality in them, and the inevitability of the suffering that ensues from all this. And as you keep looking upon existence and its world of conditionality in this manner, go ahead and fittingly live the life of a recluse, as taught by the great Master himself. Never give up on harmonizing the 7 factors of awakening. Keep nurturing the 4 bases for spiritual success. Constantly develop the 5 spiritual faculties and turn them into powers. And by continuously cultivating and refining the Noble Eightfold Path thus, go ahead and fittingly live the life of a recluse, as taught by the great Master himself. So let the true sage among you give up entirely on craving, by abandoning and leaving it far behind in his trail, through the destruction of the very roots of the asavas, by utterly blowing them up into smithereens, and thereby complete his noble task, as he goes ahead and fittingly lives the life of a recluse as taught by the great Master himself. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Apara Gotama. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.